Krishna Brahmananda Vaivadi Charjastaka Sri Shimari Sivakanda Swami Prabhupada Ki Anantagudi Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Chago Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vedanta Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radhakana Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Ki Mahaprabhu Vitam Poridam Ki All glory Samadhi, all glory Samadhi, all glory Samadhi, all glory Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, I don't see anything now except one lady with in a studio here. Am I supposed to see that? I don't know.
You can say got it. Yes, or
Okay, I don't see anybody. Am I supposed to? Or what? I don't know.
oh wait, you don't see any participants, you say?
No, I just see the lady in the studio. I'd have to click on one of these things on the bottom.
Uh, you can. I am not sure. I mean, you. If you want to see other participants, I mean, there is gallery view option in the top.
No, okay, it's okay. I'll just speak. If you see me, you see me.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, that's the main thing, I guess. I don't
Okay.
have to see anybody. So we're reading the Bhagavad-gita and third chapter, 11th verse, I think, right? All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading Bhagavad-gita. This is 11th verse, third chapter. Devan Bhavayatanena He Deva Bhavayantu Va Parasparam Bhavayanta Shreya Paramabhapsyata. Translation. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, devas, prosperity will reign for all. Shreya Paramabhapsyata. Purport. The demigods are empowered administrators of material affairs. The supply of air, light, water, and all other benedictions for maintaining the body and soul of every living entity is entrusted to the demigods for innumerable assistance in different parts of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their pleasures and displeasures are dependent on the performance of yajnas by the human being. Some of the yajnas are meant to satisfy particular demigods, but even in so doing, Lord Vishnu is worshipped in all yajnas as the chief beneficiary. It is stated also in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna himself is the beneficiary of all kinds of yajna. Bhoktaram jagatapasam. Therefore, ultimate satisfaction of the yajna-pati is the chief purpose of all yajnas. When these yajnas are perfectly performed, naturally the demigods in charge of the different departments of supply are pleased, and there's no scarcity in the supply of natural products. Performance of yajnas has many side benefits, ultimately leading to liberation from material bondage. By performance of yajnas, all activities become purified, as stated in the Vedas. Aha Shudhau, Sata Shudhi, Sata Shudhau, Dhruva Smiti, Smiti Lambe, Sarva Grantinam Vipramoksha. By performance of yajna, one's eatables become sanctified, and by eating sanctified foodstuffs, one's very existence becomes purified. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation, and all these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present-day society. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakranamritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tapitam Jena Bhutale Kayam Rupagalam Haikam Dadapi Sabadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatavadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Rahagana Raghunatam Hitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Nagana Lalita Shiva Shakamitam Cha Hare Krishna Krishna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kantara Kantara Mokute Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Devam Bhavata Nena Te Deva Bhavayantuva Parasparam Bhavayanta Shreya Paramavaptata. The demigods, devas, being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So here's given this verse beginning from in this third chapter.
Excuse me, Prabhu, like some devotees said your volume is a bit low. Is it, we don't know if it's possible to
Okay.
to
Let
get.
me go back. Let me go back and see if I can do anything. I saw in the beginning there was a volume control. I thought I turned it up. What, you still don't hear very well? No, let me go back because the page is, I'm not a techie very good. So what I'm getting is just a stupid page with this stupid woman. But I would have to go back and I don't know if I would have to shut down again or let me see what will happen. If I accidentally shut off, don't panic, I'll come back.
Okay.
Here I am. Okay. Audio setup. Here is okay. I'm trying to turn it up. Now I'm getting it up to the highest.
Oh, that's very good, actually. Yeah, that's the best.
Okay. All right. I was mentioning here the cycle beginning probably, well, the whole chapter, but really this cycle that is mentioned in the at the end of this line of verses begins with eight, especially 9, Yagyart, Kamano Yatra, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, 16. So 16, especially, it says that the anyone who doesn't perform these, what's mentioned in these last 8, 9 verses, he lives in vain, in illusion. He wasted his life. It's full of sin. He only lives for Indriya Arama, pleasuring in his own senses. Mogam means he's uselessly living. Jivati, Mogam Partha Jivati. So this is so we're on the 11th verse describing this cycle, and the cycle means doing yajnas. First of all, the 9th verse was mentioned that one has to the 9th verse, 8th verse. Niyatam kur karma jaya karma. You have to do something, prescribed duties. So, and we hear a couple times in the Gita that one should do his prescribed duty. Shayan sadhana viguna paradharmat sanushtita. He should not do paradharma, I mean someone else's duty. He has to do his own prescribed duties. So talking about Deva's pleasing and like that. So the more we read into Bhagavad-gita, we find out Kamaistaishta that one whose heart is completely impure, he actually worships Kamaistaishta. He worships other devas. So here Krishna is encouraging worship, it seems like worshiping devas, but throughout these purports, Prabhupada is stressing what is yajna, the real yajna, that Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary. And this purport also, he's quoting Bhoktam Yagatarasam Sarvaloka. And in the last purport, he quoted Sukadeva Goswami, which is one of the prayers of Sukadeva Goswami. Shriya Patir Yagyapati Prajapatir Dhyampatir Lokapatir Dharapati Patir Gadis Chandaka Vishni Saptatam Prasididam Evavam Sadam Pati Sukadeva Goswami. Those who are not familiar, but in the fourth chapter, second canto, Sukadeva Goswami offers his prayers. And I'll put in a little plug, a little advertisement for Sukadeva Goswami. He is a young fellow, 16 years old, and he spoke Bhagavatam. And in the beginning, at least in that fourth chapter, his prayers are there, starting with verse 12. And so in this last purport, Prabhupada was quoting the 20th of the prayers. There's only really goes from 12 to 25 or something, 13, 14 prayers. Maybe 14, 15 prayers, max 14, 13. And so Sukadeva Goswami, he didn't care for any real, I mean, he also spoke about, if you want to worship, I think in the second canto also, he spoke about describing if someone wants to get a very strong Brahma Vakshasa Kamastu, he wants to worship the demigods in charge of lust, Indra Kamastu. He worships Indra to get. If you want to become some kind of a king, or so, there's many prescriptions given in those. There's 2 or 3 verses that if he wants to live a long time, you will worship such and such demigod like that. Brahma Vakshasa Kamastu, Vajeta, I can't remember all of them. And he has to do so many yajnas for the demigods. But finally, after those verses, Dharmartha Uttama Shlokam, he says, if you want to get the artha, the real value of doing your dharma, then you have to worship Uttama Shloka. Who's Uttama Shloka? That's Krishna, the one who's glorified with the best shlokas. You know, we always, often, rather, we hear about Smarta Brahmanas and all the Hindus. But when we look around and we see what they do, that's what they still do. That it's not like everyone is a Hare Krishna devotee, but they're worshiping so many devas. Sometimes they worship Durga. I think Brahma was cursed, so he doesn't get worshipped very much. There's some story there where he doesn't get worshipped. And the Hindus, the Smarta Brahmins, they worship the Pantopashana, the 5 types of devas, and they have to do, if they're Brahmanas especially, and any householder who is, they don't follow anymore, but they're supposed to do something. There's 5 types of sinful activities that automatically, even if one is a strict karmi and he's vegetarian, everything, a real karmi means not a vikarmi. And we know that all the modern Kali Yuga people, they're not doing karma at all. They're doing very bad things, vikarma. But if one is a strict, say, karmi, and he's a smarta, and he's a Hindu or whatever, a Sanatanist, sometimes they say they're Sanatan, they still have to do these purificatory ceremonies. But hardly anyone's following it nowadays because it's very difficult. And we see in Bhagavatam how Daksha was a big, big progenitor. He tried to do so many things. He didn't even understand his daughter was married to Lord Shiva. He insulted Lord Shiva. So we see the result of even someone like Daksha, one of the original progenitors. He performed the greatest aparad against Lord Shiva, so much that he had to have his head cut, that all his followers were cursed by Brigu. and there was counter cursing going on. So whenever we get into this arena of doing this type of yajnas, so there's one verse we see given by acharyas that one who gives up worship of Krishna and worships demigods or worships demigods, this is like giving up your own mother and worshiping a witch. Vasudeva, I forgot the sloka, but he gives up worship of Vasudeva and worships a witch. No, nobody would do that. But even later in the Gita, you see that it's in the 18th chapter described those in the mode of passion, they worship devas, Mode of passion like Ravana. Just see, he is worshiping devas. He's worshiping Brahma, Shiva, especially Hiranyakashipu was worshiping Brahma. And Ravana, they worship Jarasandha. Jarasandha was a big Vedic worshiper. He used to give charity and so much charity. He's one example. Karna, he was very generous also, but he's in the camp of the Asuras. So in the beginning of the 11th canto, I remember there's some instructions about worshiping devas and worshiping, but if you compare the sadhu, the sadhus are always superior to the demigods. Vishnu Bhakta Bhaved Sura. The sadhu is automatically Yashyashti Bhakti Bhagavat Yakinchana Savargana Shatra Samasate. He's a sum total, like the guru. The guru is the perfect sadhu. You take our guru, whether it's Prabhupada or anyone who's guru, especially Prabhupada, and then he's the sum total of all devas. There's no question of having to worship devas. If one performs the guru puja, he understands Prabhupada, he does this seva, mahat sevam, then, who is the mahat? Everyone is reading Prabhupada's books. He's guru of anybody, and especially in ISKCON. One time Prabhupada was asked, how many disciples do you have, Swami, coming off an airplane? Prabhupada said, all are my disciples. Some admit, some do not. So when one accepts the guru, then all the worship of the devas is included. There's no need of worshiping any extra deva. And this word here is also interesting. In this verse, parasparam, bodhyanta parasparam. Later on in the 10th chapter, we have the nutshell verses, the 4 nutshell verses. Anyone, a beginner in Bhagavad-gita, if he asks, well, he should ask, what's an important sloka, a verse to memorize? And there are so many, of course. If one is a very ardent, enthusiastic new bhakta studying Bhagavad-gita, then we would tell him, well, here's 50 verses. But we also must include those 4 verses. Tesham satata yukta bhajatam piti purvakam. Vidami buddhiyogam tam. But and then the other verse, bodhyanta parasparam. Machita markita bodhyanta parasparam. That means, parasparam means a mutual, parasparano katanam. In 11th canto, Krishna uses the same term, parasparano katanam, mito ratas. One develops an affection for the devotees and he wants to give up his sinful activity, then he has to interact with the devotees. And by doing that, bhakya sanjataya bhakta, that then his bhakti develops. Because association with the devotee is a sum total. Why should we associate with the demigod? We don't disrespect demigods, devas, but we don't go out of our way to worship. Krishna says, Antavatu palamtesham tadbhavi. Alpamedasham. Alpamedasham means those who worship devas strictly, even the Panchapasana, the 5 Vishnu, and they worship Brahma, they worship Durga, like that, Ganesh, 5. Pancho means 5 types of worship. They only do it with a motive. But here Krishna is encouraging, yes, do it, but you understand. He's telling, Krishna is the one speaking speaking this Bhagavad Gita. So he can say, yes, you're worshiping devas, and this is good, but then they'll see, wait a minute, how do I know about this? Because Brahmo, one of the last verse in this cycle, or the next to the last verse, I think, Brahmaksha Samubhavam. It says this verse here, Karma Brahmo Bhavam Vidhi Brahmaksha Samubhavam Tasmat Sarvagadam Brahma Nityam Yogi Patishtitam. All regular activities are prescribed in the Vedas. The Vedas are manifest from the personality of God. Consequently, the Nityam Yogi Pratishtitam, the all-pervading transcendence, is eternally situated in access. So, if you take this verse out of context from the whole Bhagavad Gita, you'll think, it says here I should worship the devas. But that's not the conclusion, because the conclusion is unfolding, because Krishna will say antavam. Antavat means it possesses an anta, an end. Antavatu palam. The fruits of your worship will be temporary. Antavam palam tesham tad bhavati alpamadisham. And Krishna will call you an alpamadisham. Unfortunately, it means you have less intelligence. Alpamadisham. Whereas and the verse used in the end of the purport, last purport, describing what the ultimate yajna is in the age of Kali is yajantihi sumedashaha. Sumedasham. Those who have very good intelligence, they take this instruction in the 11th canto, 5th chapter. This famous verse. Krishna Varantusha Krishnam Sangopamashtapashadam. Yagyai Samkirtana Prayai. Now, of course, you have the word prayar. Prayar means especially, mainly. Mainly, we do Sankirtan Yagya. We also do some Yagya. There's no. And during the big Yagya in Alachua, we have a lot of Yagyas. I think we have more Yagyas than most temples who have a big property, and we have several pundits who love to do Yagyas. And the president, Mukhya, she likes Yagyas also. So Radharani's appearance, we had a big Yagya for Radharani, but still, every time, there's a Yagya, we have this sanskars, like baby is going to be, half a year old, or his teeth are coming in, it's a grain, he gets his first sweet rice, there's a Yagya, and there's a Yagya when you're getting married, someone dies. So on a big festival day, there's always a yagya here, and we have a regular open air. Most small temple you cannot do like that, or the smoke alarm will go or something. Here you can have yagya, fire yagya. There's no problem. Everyone knows there's yagyas and people like it. And Krishna's eating through the fire. It's described by Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentaries on this section of verses and when you read that, it's funny because sometimes I think, oh wow, I got that now. Some things probably didn't cram everything in. This is a commentary he's using Baladev Vidyabhusana, a disciple of Vishwanath, but they both say pretty much similar things. But in one of their commentaries, it described that, of course, they're quoting different Vedic, and that the fire is the sun, and the sun, of course, those devas are given in Brahma Samhita. Prabhupada said, you want to worship devas, then you simply chant the Brahma Samhita. Yats Chaksharefa, the one about Surya, or Yats Chaksharefa Savitor. Savitor, when we chant the Brahma Gayatri, we're supposed to face east and then west in the evening, and then the midday, Why should we face east? I mean, of course, if you're in a temple room, sometimes the deity is, you worship the deity, you might face, but generally speaking, you face the sun because Narayana Sahasrajasana Sannivishta, he's situated he's the eye of the Lord, and he's the eye of the Lord. But The fire is the sun. So when we offer grain or anything into the fire, the Brahmins offer, that is just like it's offering to the sun. And then that cycle is kept up, maintained, because the grains or whatever is offered into the fire, the ghee, like that, it's just like offering to the sun, and the sun is giving us the rain. And there's anadavanti bhutani parajanyarana sambhava. And so this regulated activity is coming from the Vedas, the Brahma Aksharam. Brahma, sometimes some acharyas like Ramanuja, or they differ. It's not a big difference, but some of them say the Brahma is actually the material body. Others say no, it's Krishna, but they don't argue. But it is an expansion of Krishna, the material energy. So Brahmakshara is the spiritual energy coming from the Veda. They're giving the instruction. Veda pranahito dharma. In the sixth canto, there's a well-known statement. Veda pranahito dharma. That dharma, these regulated activities, they're coming directly from the Vedas. And the Vedas are directly Krishna speaking. Veda pranahito dharma. Hiya dharma viparya. And anything else is adharma. Viparya means the opposite. So the original Veda, Vedaishcha sarvaya, Ahamaiva Vedu, Krishna says in the Gita, I am the Vedanta Krit Veda Vedavajam. I compile the Vedas. So when he speaks Gita, he also says, Bahuni Medyatitani Janmani Tavat Charjuna. Many lives you and I both spent, but you don't remember. But I spoke this, he says in the 4th chapter of the Gita, coming after this, that I spoke this to the sun god and Vivishvan, he spoke it again, like Ikshvaku. So Krishna speaking, it's been forgotten. Even Arjuna, you appear with me, but you don't even remember, because Arjuna is kept in the material world. He says he has the transcendental pastime in the material world, but generally nobody remembers. I remember there's so many lives you had, Arjuna, but I put you in illusion now, thinking that I am your friend, I am a cousin, and Krishna is glorifying, Arjuna is glorifying Krishna. Saketi matva prasabam niruktam. I was such a fool. I was sitting with you on the bed, and so he was enjoying with Krishna and like a pal, good friends, cousins. And so please, Priya Deva Shodum, please tolerate as a lover tolerates or a parent tolerates their son. So Krishna, so Arjuna is put into this illusion. Similarly, we're all in this illusion, and not Arjuna is not in illusion. He's in this mugdatva. He's in the yoga maya illusion, but we're in this mundane illusion that we are acting. So here Krishna is trying to bring us out of this spell of maya. So another interesting word in this sloka, well, is twice it says, 3 times it says, pleased, that this being pleased, and Bhavayanta, being pleased by this sacrifice, Bhavayantu. And when we read in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the Devas actually, they have adhikar, they can come, like Lord Shiva, he appears as Advaitacharya, or other demigods come in different ways, Brahma Haridas. They want to take part in the Lord's Leela as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're not interested in their, Brahmaji, he was feeling, he offered so many amazing prayers in the 10th canto. 3rd canto, there's Brahma's prayers, and we have Brahma Samhita. We have many prayers of Lord Brahma, but and especially there's like 40 something prayers in the 10th, in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. And Krishna was like almost ignoring him. He was just, okay, hey, I just want to go play with my friends. I don't know what you're speaking some prayers. It wasn't. So he didn't seem very impressed. And Brahma was feeling like, oh, so he has somehow a benediction to take birth. So they say Brahma Haridas. And so the Devas, they're coming, and many times mentions that Sachi Mata would hear some ankle bells and see the footprints of Krishna, but she didn't understand what's going on. The Devas were there. They're watching secretly. They're coming. Deva Gane, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes, in his song, Jayo and the Arctic song, Lord Brahma is there, Lord Shiva. Many of his songs, he talks about the Devas, how they're there with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Deva Gane. So this is their pastime. They enjoy like this. They're not interested in their own pastime. There, Indra also may come. Sometimes he satisfied, like Advaita Acharya. When Advaita Acharya was cooking one big lunch for Mahaprabhu in Puri, and he was praying and hoping and just concentrating like anything. He didn't want that. Always so many sannyasis might come with Mahaprabhu to the lunch. He cooked, I think, enough, but still he was thinking, I just want to be with Mahaprabhu. I don't want all these. So all that time there was a huge downpour of rain and nobody came there, but Mahaprabhu, he came. Of course, he knows the whole thing. He's the source of the Leela, Avatar Shah, Gaur Avatar. He's the essence of all the avatars. He came there alone, and Advaita Acharya was very ecstatic. And then Mahaprabhu was also laughing and saying, Advaita, I know that you're the Lord of Indra. You commanded him to reign all over these sannyasis so that you could have my association by yourself. He knew that. So sometimes exhibiting these mystic powers, controlling the devas, even Indra. And of course, Indra tried to, in his pastime, he tried to, I don't know what he was trying to do in the Govardhan Leela, pouring the Samvartika cloud, the cloud of destruction of the universe. But Krishna, because he didn't understand Krishna, but he also has his prayers that he offered. There was one, I don't want to say ex-sannyasi, but he was an ex-sannyasi, but he was a big Indian pundit. He was Prabhu's disciple. And I was painting he came up to my studio in '84. I was doing the painting of Indra praying to Krishna after the trying to get forgiveness. And I really couldn't quote. I think the first or second verse concerns the modes of nature, and there's several prayers there, but I didn't memorize them. Even in English, I would have a hard time saying. But he came in, although in his fallen state, and he was a big Sanskrit pundit, he was quoting, 2 or 3 of those Indra's prayers. So I was thinking, even he in his fallen state, he knows so many things. It's amazing. So Indra has his prayers throughout the Bhagavatam, different devas. Lord Shiva is offering prayers, and Brahma has so many prayers, all these big devas. So in this 11th canto, and I think in the third chapter, third chapter, it describes this comparison of the devas to the sadhus, and sachiva. The word is used that the devas, they're like shadows. Whatever the person does, a living entity, they just follow like a shadow. You did something, then deva has to give the reaction, which is a little bit like karma mimamsa philosophy that Krishna was telling Nanda Maharaj. Says, why are you worshiping Indra anyway? I mean, because whatever you're doing, you're going to have to get the result. There's nothing to do with Indra. You do something, and then you'll get the result. That's all. But Indra didn't like that, so so one has to please these devas. But if one understands Krishna's a source, so we're not saying we don't offend demigods, but we can understand, just like Prabhupada gave us in our line. If we want to worship, then Kshiram Yata Dadidikar Visheshi Yogat Samjayate Nahititad Pratikasti Heto Yasambutam Apitatar Samupaitikar Yam Govinda Maharipu Shantamaham. In that context, Lord Shiva, he's compared to this yogurt, and so he's very powerful, obviously, Lord Shiva. That glance is also spoken about in the beginning of Brahma Samhita, this glance of Shambhu, is very powerful, and he, along with his consort, they're the source of this material world. Uh, so in that, how can we neglect them? Same time, Govinda Mari Purusham, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satyananda Vigraha. We always know who is the source, Govinda Mari, only in the accordance with the order of Govinda does the sun go in its course. So similarly, it describes Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya Shadana Shakti Reka Chaiva Yashi Bhuvanani Vibhakti Durga Chanrupam Api Yashi Chitesa Govinda Mari Purusham. I'm describing Durga in this material world. Durga is very powerful, all powerful, more or less. One is in Maya, especially. You see how Kamsa was so impressed when he took that girl baby from Devaki and whoa, and Kamsa was really flipped out when he saw that. You see the painting, Triti did the painting where it was like, wow, he tried to smash her on the ground on a slab or something, and she flew up in the sky. Kamsa, you rascal fool, with all her weapons. So sometimes Durga makes an appearance, like when Judd Bharat was brought in by these crazy dacoits, and they wanted to do some kind of a sacrifice. They considered him some kind of retarded, weird, semi-animal or something, and animalistic. I mean, they're the most bloodthirsty, crazy guys, but they're thinking they will sacrifice him just so they can get something from Durga. They put him in front of the Durga. Durga was not very happy with them at all. And she burst out of her. In fact, Prabhupada loved that painting. He especially wrote a letter saying, whoever has done that painting, please, tell him, thank you very much. He was thinking about that painting. But it shows what happens because Durga is not very happy with all these, she has a whole garland of skulls from all these rascal asuras. And all the so-called prasadam that she gets, that they eat, actually, she's offering to Krishna that prasadam. She herself is getting the remnants from Krishna. So she crushes the demons. Shrishti Sthiti Pralaya, she's destroying. She's creating Pralaya. Shadana Chaiva, and also described that she's like the shadow of potency. Chaiva Yashabhuvanani Vibhakti Durga. Durga literally means door. We have even in English, there's such a great word. Very durable, it's a very, so they have the same prefix on many words. That's so many great words from Sanskrit infiltrated into English. Durable and like that. Well, I can't think, but they have many. So dur means very difficult to go, difficult to go as a fort. Sometimes you see those big forts, European, but in Rajasthan, you have the huge forts, it's like, wow, like, 5-10 stories tall. And then from there they would shoot, and somebody tried to get in the fort in the middle of the desert. So if you don't get in there, you're gonna, some way you're gonna get water or do anything. So I imagine those forts came in handy. It's difficult, but huge forts. And there the king would be there. The soldiers might come out, and so many crazy, horrible pastimes, I'm sure, over the last thousands and thousands of years. So the big fort, Durgam Patas Tadgavayo Vedanti, this word comes up. Durgam Patas. This is the verse about the razor edge, the razor sharp. This material world is like the razor, the sharp, very sharp razor. And one cannot, as soon as you make a slightest mistake, I mean, nowadays we could say it's like driving a car. Like I just got a pretty new car, but I'm thinking anytime, I could be finished in my car. When you get a little older, you don't want to always fix cars, so I got a better car. But so many people are driving and have a very nice car, or they might have like some famous movie star or something. She ordered a custom $28 million car recently. $28 million. You try to get your head around it. $28 million. Like, what is the car? Probably bulletproof, because who knows? So At any moment, though, you're finished. You're driving nicely. The razor example is there. It's still perfect. That Prabhupada described it, that you have a razor and if you put it on your fingernail, you don't feel anything. But as soon as you move it a tiny fraction of an inch on your skin, wow, heavy, heavy pain. So, and if you're shaving, someone in the old days, I guess they had a straight razor. So now we have safety razor. We don't have safe schools. We don't have safe anything. Well, we have a safe razor. Okay, yeah. Whatever. You don't have a safe street. You don't have a safe anything. The air is filthy. The water, everything's poisoned, polluted. But you get a safety razor at least. So this Kshashadara Nishita Duratyaya. Duratya means difficult, very difficult. All the sages have said, Durgam Patas, it's very difficult to go. This material world is just like this. Any moment we can be finished. Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Jivana Talamala Jivana Talamala Kamala Dala Jala, like the water drop on the leaf of the lotus. The lotus leaf is like waterproof, so of course many leaves are waterproof, but especially because it's in the water, and anytime that water will drop, and so we may also drop at any time, and Bhaktivinoda describes it as, I can't remember that verse, at any moment we're finished. One should always think. There's one Chanakya Pandit verse. He says, Nityo anitya tvam. Smarna nityam anitya tvam. Always think that, smarna, always remember, natyam, smarna nityam anitya tvam, that this material world is finishable, is not for always, it's not forever. You should forever think that this is not forever, this material world. So those who are worshiping the Devas, they want some material thing. Still they're doing, you can see sometimes, you see advertisements, Hindus are performing some, what they call them, a Rajasuya Yagya, or a, which is a joke, because when we read about Rajasuya Yagya in the Mahabharata or something, there's nothing. So this, I was thinking this word Shreya, Shreyasi Mudhanam. In the first canto, we're hearing about Vyasadeva, that he was Mudha. He's a Stri Sudra Vijabandhu Nam Trayana Shruti Gochara, means that the women and the laborer class and even the Vaishyas and the friends of the Brahman, the fallen Brahman, they have no adhikar, no gochara. They have no power or to understand higher philosophy. Therefore, he has composed the Mahabharata, Akhyanam, Iti Bhartam Akhyanam, Kripayamuni, because he's full of mercy, Kripayamuni Nakvitam. He composed the Mahabharata. But then he was feeling also despondent when Narad Muni came. He said, what's the matter with you, my dear Prabhu? You're all on something wrong. I mean, you composed the Vedanta Sutra, the Mahabharata, and so many Vedas, you compiled them, and so what's the matter with you? You're feeling so. And so he explained, please stop. Find out what's wrong. But this Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vittaranam, you find this word in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prayer, Chaitadharpana Marjana, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vittaranam. That the holy name is mentioned in the last purport in that verse, that is giving us the Shreya. Shreya Kairava Chandrika. Kairava Chandrika is the white lotus that blooms in the moonlight, and Vidyavadu Jivanam, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vittaranam, and as the moon. It's an amazing thing. And when you think, I mean, that Mahaprabhu is just, he only left like 8 prayers, but then the great acharyas have written so much. Just the 6 Goswamis has expanded that from Mahaprabhu. Of course, they had direct association, but just if you read each prayer, there's so many things. Bhaktivinoda has given a whole book, and others have given a whole book just on each prayer, what it is, and expanding and understanding what it is. The Shreya, Prabhupada says how Vidya Vidu Jivanam. The more you chant the holy name, then your knowledge will increase. Is if you chant rather seriously, then you'll want to increase your knowledge. So Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam, just as the moon is expanding every day. But this is unlimited expansion, because then he says Chandrika Vitaranam means to expand. Vidyavadu Jivanam, this is the life of transcendental knowledge. The holy name is the life of all transcendental knowledge. Vidyavadu Jivanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Sfadam. Pratipadam means at every step. Pratipadam, padam is a step, and pratipadam means every step, one after another. Purna Amrita Asfadanam. Purna Amrita Asfadanam. It becomes one word, and it's the full nectar, which we always want to taste. Purna Amrita. Mrityu means death, but the Amrita, real word meaning of Amrita means deathless nectar. It's not just temporary. It's not a temporary. When we get drink at a big feast, we call it Amrita or nectar. That's true, it is. But the ultimate nectar is this chanting, Purnamrita Asfadanam. So we have to get a taste for that. Sarvatma Snapanam. Why? Because Sarvatma, all souls, not even just humans, Sarvatmas means all atmas. Sarvatma Snapanam. They can all bathe in that ocean. And that ocean is ever expanding. Sarvatma Snapanam. Sarvatma Snapanam. Parambhijayate. The holy name is all auspicious, all Parambhijayate. Victorious from the Shri Krishna. Sankirtanam Chaitradharpanam Arjun Bhavamaha Bhavagni Nirvapanam. So this is the ocean of transcendental. It's expanding, and the holy name is Nityam Yogi Patishtitam, that Krishna's always there. I was just reading I just read a lot of things, but one of the things I was reading is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. If you haven't, anyone out there, I'll put a little plug in. It's not the main priority, but if you can read the Jaiva Dharma, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's got so many, each chapter, like there's one called Naimittika, Nitya Dharma, and there's 40 chapters in the book. So the last few chapters are very advanced, very advanced. I mean, I don't usually read them because it's way describing all the different gopis and types of gopis, and I just feel like, wait a minute, I'm not ready, I can't, I'm not. But that whole book, it's got these different types of smarta Brahmins, demigod worshippers. They come to challenge the Vaishnavas, and the Vaishnavas always smash them, of course. But it's done so wonderfully, like one Advaita Babaji. He became a Babaji. I think he had been a Mayavadi, he had been a Brahmavadi, and he converted. And anyway, he was very, very learned. So I think it was him. Anyway, one of his old friends came to see him, and his name was Digambar, but he was totally materialistic. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so funny, because Digambar means that you're dressed in only the directions. It's a name for a great sadhu that goes naked. Really, Digambar, Ambar means dress, and Dig means the direction. So being dressed by the directions is just this nice way of saying you're naked, really. But he was dressed in all these fine clothes, and he'd been a childhood friend of this Babaji, this great advanced devotee, and he was coming there, and just he heard about him, and he wanted to meet him, but he was very upset that, why have you given up, the Hindu religion, become some weird Vaishnava and like that. So this Advaita was kind of he was quoting a bunch of things, but in the end, he just wanted to get rid of this guy, he was just annoying as anything. Meanwhile, all Bhaktivinoda Thakur has so many quotes. Anyway, it's amazing book. It's quite, and it's funny in Bhaktivinoda Thakur, actually. It's quite humorous if you know a little of the ways. Digambar, and this guy's name, he's got the name of a great sadhu that goes naked, but he's dressed in all these fancy clothes. So, anyway, I don't know when is the winding down of the class, but if anyone has some questions or answers.
We can go till around 7, Prabhu,
Oh,
approximately.
I can keep going. I can't remember. Each class is different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can keep going, but still, he can, he can ask now a question.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So we can end the timing for our ending is per your discretion, but I'm just saying we often go till 7, and we can also,
Okay.
it's very fine to take questions
All right.
before then. So yeah, so anyone who has questions, since Pushkar Prabhu invited you, or comments, please go ahead now.
I have no idea if anyone's there. Last time I gave this class, it was like hardly anyone around.
No, yeah, there's a, if you click, there's a way where you can view the gallery, and there's
Yeah.
there's about 10 of us here now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I was talking about this Shreya, and also I was thinking in first canto, there's several verses in at the end of I want to say third chapter. No, it's the second chapter. Mamukshavo Gorupam Hitva Bhuta Patinata Narayana Kalashanta Bhajantihi Anasuyava. So here, Sutra Goswami is speaking to the sages in Naimisharanya about worshiping demigods, Prajapsava, Shriya Prajapsava. They simply worship demigods just to get some material thing. He's flat out telling the sages. And those who worship these horrible forms, especially, I don't know if he's referring to Lord Shiva, it doesn't exactly say, but we know Durga, and she's got the skulls, and Kala Bhairav, and it's really kind of a horrific thing. So Mamukshu, they're doing that to try to get like liberation, but it's kind of a weird way to try to get liberated. Mukshivo Gora Rupam. Gora means horrible. The horrible features of the demigod. Gorupa Hitva Bhutta Patinata Narayana Kalashanta. Those who are the followers of Narayan, but then they are non-envious, and they don't accept the worship of demigods. They accept only the worship of Narayana, and they Narayana Kalashanta Bhajantihi Anasuya. So the way they are designated, according to Sutta Goswami, is they're Anasuya. Arjuna is also called Anasuyave because you are not envious. Nachashu Shushave. That's another thing in the last part of the Gita. One who is non-envious. He is in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, the first thing, Nirmat Dharma Projita, all these types of demigod worship is kicked out in the very beginning. This is Dharma Projita, Ujita. Ujita means to sweep out, and Prakrishta Rupena Ujita. So this Rupa means specifically, it gives it much more emphasis. Any word where you see pra like that, Dharma, pra, Ujita. Not only it's kicked out, but it's really kicked out, really kicked out. I was reading that verse today, and I saw it twice. It said Sajo Takshanat. Within 2 lines, you see the word Sajo. Mean immediately when these things are kicked out and you become nirmatsara. Now, this word nirmatsara means non-envious. And there's a funny derivation that's explaining how matsa means, like the Matsya avatar. It's the fish, and the fish are somehow understood. The material world is, everyone's like a big fish eating the little fish, the Falguni Takta Mahatam, Jiva Jivashya Jivanam, that those who are the weak are subsistence of those who are strong. Those who have 2 arms kill the 4-legged animals, and the animals kill the ones who have no, like that down. And there's a food chain, and so therefore, nirmatsarana means you shouldn't be like the fish where you're trying. No, the Paramahansas who are eligible to read and understand Srimad Bhagavatam, they are nirmatsaranam. They're not like this is like the grossest, simplest form of explaining the material energy. Fish eating. Nirmatsaram satam bejam vastavama So they come to the substance, Vastava, Atra, Vastu, Shivadam, which is Shiva. Shiva, the word Shiva means auspicious. Dam means to give. So Shiva Dam is there right in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. It gives this auspicious. Several times this word is used in the Bhagavatam, in the Shastra. Shiva Dam. Tapatran Mulanam. Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, am I reading? What sloka am I doing here? So Shivadam Tapatran Mulanam. Yeah, it uproots. Mulanam. Mula means the roots, and it uproots the threefold miseries. So Bhagavatam is so powerful. Tapatran Mulanam Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamunikate Kimbaparar Sadyo. Sadyo means immediately. Avarujate is established. It's like Sadyo. Then it Takshanat. Not only immediately, but then it says Takshanat means instantly, like very quickly. Sadyo means quickly, but Takshana is a fragment of a second. So, wow. And Takshana means like split second. So, yeah, there's gradually, gradually also it says there, Shana Rupramed in the 6th chapter of the Gita, gradually it unfolds the lotus. Bhaktivinoda describes that when one takes the holy name, gradually, one becomes purified. But still, it's possible that immediately this happens. And Bhaktivinoda shows that in Jaiva Dharma with some of these great sadhus that they come in contact with the Vaishnavas, that depending, some person might take thousands of millions of lifetimes, or some person immediately becomes a great person, a great strict Vaishnava, becomes sannyas, like that. So takshana, nigama kalpatarorgalitam palam shukamukutir samnitam pipata bhagavatam. So drink this Srimad Bhagavatam. So there he's describing those who worship the devas, and the contrast is given. We have these stories like sometimes in the beginning, if we read about why is it describing these demigod worship? So he's saying, okay, you can worship that Uma, and you want to get good children, good progeny, you want to become beautiful, worship the devas, you want long life, you want victory. But he says, Dharma ultimately you have to worship. Uttama shloka, immediately he says that. Give all that stuff up. In fact, at the end of the Bhagavatam, it describes there that although many kings and great persons have been mentioned, especially because small-time persons are mentioned, but especially there are many kings mentioned in great incarnations, really. But Adimadya Vishaneshu Vairagyakena Samyate, that it's all meant to bring about Vairagya. And all the blessings we get from reading about what this is a Gita class, but the Bhagavad-gita, Kinchadadita, if one just even probably quoted Shankaracharya, one time even in BTG, they printed all of Shankaracharya's glorification, the Gita Mahatmya. There's several Gita Mahatmyas, and one is Advaitamrita Bhashani. It is a shower of immortal nectar. He also quotes Bhagavatam there. Young Brahma, all the demigods are worshiping Krishna. This is a verse from the 12th canto, the last chapter, the 13th chapter. It's the last chapter. In the very first verse, Prabhupada sings it on one bhajan, and it says, Young Brahma. In fact, he sang this song for John Lennon and Yoko Ono. He sang this sloka because Yoko Ono was questioning, well, you only chant Hare Krishna, and blah, 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 something she was saying, something like that. Prabhupada said, no, all the Vedic mantras are sung. And then he sang that. Young Brahma, Varunendra, Rudra, Mutas, Tunbanti, Dabai, Vedai, Sangha, Padakamasha, Panishadar, Gayanti, Yang Samaga, Dhanavastita Tadvite, Manasa, Pasyantiam, Yogino, Yashyantam. Of course, if you hear Prabhupada sing it, it's way, 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 way incalculably amazing to hear him sing it. And it says, that person, young Brahma, that Brahma worships, Brahma, Varuna, Indra, young Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Young Brahma, Varunendra, Rudra, Marutai, the Marutais. And then in the second line, Young Brahma, Varunendra, Rudra, Marutas. He says, Dhyana Vastita. Oh, no, it says, Bharatas, the right. Vedai Sango Padakrama Panisha Dargayantiyam Shamaga. All the Vedas are glorifying Krishna, especially those who chant the Sam Veda, because we have the word song. It sounds a little bit like song Veda, but it's all singing, especially, and glorification of Krishna. Samaga and Sarvopanishad, all the Upanishads are describing Sarvopanishad Gavo. That's also in the beginning of the Gita Mahatmya. Sarvopanishad Gavo, Dugdug Gopalanandana. There's so many Upanishads, but the coward boy Krishna is milking them all, and he's getting the essence, which is Bhagavad-gita. And Arjuna is drinking, we're all drinking. So similarly, this 12th canto verse is describing Brahmarendra, this one probably we've quote many times, that those who are yogis, dhyana means they're engaged in meditation. Dhyana vastita, dhyana tadgatena manasa, their minds are dhyana tadgatena manasa pasyanti, they see Krishna. If they're actual real yogis, they will see, just like the yogis meditation described in by Kapila Dev, like in third 328, I think 328, that chapter. And so they actually will see Krishna, and they'll see that the demigods are part and parcel. When Vamana shows his form, or when there's the universal form, many times the demigods are situated in different parts, especially in the chest, I believe, of that form that's described. Finally, it says, Yasyantam Navadu Surasurgana Tasmai Devai Namaha. Yasya Antam, that person whose end, Yasyantam, there is no end. He's unlimited. Yasyantam Navadu, they don't know. Who doesn't know? Suragana, Asuras, either the demons or the demigods or the Davis. Okay, I'm still getting left. If anybody's interested. So none of them know the ending. I offer prayer to that person. Of course, Prabhupada chanted some other verses for John Lennon and Yoko Ono. He chanted Prabhupada's prayers where Prabhupada talks about Nateva du Sartagatim hi Vishnu. Those who don't know that Vishnu is the final goal of meditation, of worship. Nateva du Sartagatim, the goal of life, Sartagatim hi Vishnu. Durashaya ye bahir. They're simply engaged in bahir arti. They're seeing value only in the external material world. And then he said, Matirna Krishna Parato Sato Bhamitobi, but they will never understand Krishna. I mean, he was talking to them. I mean, of all the shlokas he could have picked out, he picked those 3 shlokas. Andayatanda, blind following the blind. Of course, John Lennon, he got some credit. I've seen this photograph from Montreal where they had such a far out picture where they were in bed, or something, doing some kind of demonstration, Yoko Ono and John Lennon. And in the picture, you see Jayapataka, you see Bardraj, you see Hansaduta, you see Shripati, you see, I think it was Sridham. Who else was in that picture? Anyway, it's this maybe 2 pictures like that, and they're up in that hotel room, I guess. And I think Bardraj or somebody was holding a tambor, so they were obviously doing bhajan. So I mean, John Lennon had Prabhupada in his house; he gets so much credit, but somehow Prabhupada said he was controlled by that woman, that Yoko Ono. So anyway, it's funny he picked those slokas to chant, but that's a great sloka. Young Brahma Varanendra, highly recommended, because that verse describes how the Devas are worshiping Krishna. Not only the Devas, but the demons. The demons don't know the end of Krishna. Ranikashipu, he thinks that Krishna's gone into everyone's heart and hid. Yeah, he's hid there because she's there permanently. Radeshu Arjuna Distasya. Brahmayan Sarvabhuta. Okay, so you're saying 7 is when we should take questions? Atma?
Prabhu, you can take questions now or anytime. I was just saying that we usually finish up both the class portion and the questions and answers. We kind of wrap the whole thing up by 7. So, you know what I mean? So you can start taking questions now if you like, or just bearing in mind the total, the end time after it's all done.
Right. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but usually most classes are an hour, wherever I've seen a maximum an hour, 45 minutes.
That's why I said for your discretion, Prabhu, you can take questions now. You
Maybe
could take
no one has
questions
any
a while
questions.
ago.
Nobody has questions. Let me open the window here.
Could some of the devotees please ask a question? Do me a favor.
Well, I could go on. Let me see. Arjuna addresses Krishna as David Jagatpate in 11th chapter of the Gita. We see that Swayamavatmanatmanam Vedatam Purushottama. You're the source of all the Devas. Deva Jagatpate. Tam Devatanam Paramam, the Upanishad verse, Tam Deva Paramam Devatam. Of all the Devas, he's the worshipful source of all the Devas. Because in the Vedas, there are many Devas, they worship Indra, it's still going on. It's not like ISKCON has converted everybody in India, although they're trying hard to do that. Actually quite successful. I can't even think how many temples there were in India when Prabhupada left the planet. Now there's like 475, and a lot of them are actual temples that are built. And in Delhi alone, there's 7 or 8 temples, actual temples, not just a storefront. And there's huge temples. Even in Bombay, you have like 3 or 4 definitely 3 major temples. And so David Jagatpate, that's one of the names of Krishna. There's one devotee, David Jagatpate, who used to be in Vaikuntha player. Jagatpate means the father of the universe. David Jagatpate. Tam Devatam. So we're not against using these words, but they're all applicable. So see this word, pleasing, praspara, the nice word. They're pleasing each other. Prasparano katanam, mito rati. I can't remember that verse, but 11th canto, I think it's the 20th, 19th, or the chapter. No, it's before that. And I think the 5th, yeah. These words come up again. Their association with the devotees, because the what does it say? The mula, the root of Krishna consciousness is association with the devotees. Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Bhakti, Sadhu Sangha, Hoy Mula, Hoya Janma Mula. The birth of Bhakti is from association with devotees. And even Krishna Prema, Hoy, even when one attains Krishna Prema, still, this is what Kaviraj Goswami says, still the main root, mula, of is association with devotees. So at all stages, one needs association. And Prabhupada was, very advanced devotee. Still, he had his own disciples he associated with. He didn't just abandon, he didn't come to the States. He could come to 26th Avenue and fly back to see his godbrothers. He tried to get them to help, but he made devotees. Like Kripatna Satsarashina Bhagavan Gradita. Soham Katam Navasajeta. He quoted it in his Markan, the prayer on the Jaladuta. he's quoting Prahlad's prayer. He could have quoted many things, but especially he quoted the prayer because it says, Kama Bhikama Mamaya Papatam Pasanga, due to lusty material desires. Prahlad saying, then I've fallen in this pit of snakes. Evam janam na patitam pabavahi kupe. He literally was put in the snake pit. He knows Prahlad. So pabavahi kupe means the well. Ahi are the snakes. So pabavahi kupe kamabhikam. But he's actually blaming himself due to his material desires. And Prabhupada's quoting, invoking that verse. And then it says, Kritvatna Sat Surashina. Sura Arshina means he's referring to Narad Muni as guru. That Bhagavan, he's calling him Bhagavan. He's saying, Kritvatna Surashina Bhagavan Puhita. And he's saying, he has given me these qualities. The Acharya, Chaksu Dandilo Janme Janme Prabhu. He can give us the divine eyes. Prema Bhakti Jahalite Abhijata. Destroys ignorance. And therefore, Prahlad says, therefore he says, so hankatam nu visujay. How could I ever give up his service? So you can see, you can understand why Prabhupada would invoke this verse on the Jaladutta, because he's praying to his guru, like, and this is a heavy service, not quite pit of snakes, but he's comparing, he's only just been there a few minutes. I mean, in the Boston Harbor or something, he hasn't even hardly gotten off the boat. But he's probably didn't need to. I mean, just if you read all the purports in the first canto, sometimes you're just like flabbergasted. You think, wait a minute, he wrote this before he came to the United States. The mind boggler, probably. He's just like Vyasadeva. Somebody actually was saying, "Oh, Swami, you are just like Vyasadeva." I said, "No, I'm not." Well, yeah, you can say that because Vyasa Prasada. Anyone who takes Gita, like the end of the Gita says, by the mercy, Sanjaya is saying, by the mercy of Vyasa, Vyasa Prasada, the mercy of Vyasa, then so anyone who takes that, then he can become like Vyasa. Probably wasn't taking credit, but okay. Were there any questions stored up now? Discussion.
If there's not, Prabhu, we could now just do a little Hare Krishna Kirtan if you like to chant a little bit.
Do it, or if anyone else wants to chant. Okay, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna Yaravaya Nama Hare Hare Rama Krishna Yaravaya Nama Hare Yaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Yaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Gopala Govinda Ram Shimadhusudan Gopala Govinda Ram Shimadhusudan Giridhari Gopina Madana Moha Giridhari Gopina Madana Moha Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhakta Raguna Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhakta Raguna Shri Rupa Bhakta Dasa Raguna Shri Rupa Bhakta Dasa Raguna Echai Gosai Jamu Charada Samsabara Bhagavenu Mora Panchaga Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupada Balamananda Vijaya Jana Shima Deshivatman Swami Prabhupada Ki Prabhupada Ki all glory some devotees Gautam and Andi Hari Go.
Jai. His Grace Puskar Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai, Haribo.
You can unmute if you want to. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please join me in blessing appreciation for Puskar Prabhu and his nice association and his great understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam and helping us with Krishna consciousness. Please join me now. His Grace Puskar Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai.
Haribo.
Haribo.